Hi. In this particular series of videos that we're doing, I've tried to change the focus of how the whole process of explaining different features of SQL Server is implemented is changing. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because I was thinking about how we could use SQL Server in our day-to-day lives, and I've come to realize that uh, as technology professionals or IT professionals, we're all familiar with what SQL can do or what .NET or any of the other platforms that we work on can do. However, very rarely does anybody actually implement some of these features or their skill set in their day-to-day lives. So with this particular set of videos, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a hypothetical person, an imaginary person called Mary. And Mary's a homemaker. She's at home. She's a housewife, and she's trying to get her finances in order and just try to track where her incoming is, how much expenses she's got, where or under which category of um activities or tasks that she spends the most amount of money, things like that. And the assumption here is that Mary, being a homemaker, is not really familiar with SQL Server or any of the technologies available. So we will go ahead and implement SQL in a way that probably anybody who's not already working on SQL should be able to actually follow. The intention being that I'm not going to use any highly complex features or anything that probably something you wouldn't necessarily get on the video, right? So everything that you see over here would be things that's available on the internet if you just Google it, right? So what we're going to do is, obviously Mary is going to put her finances in order, and as a result she needs a bank statement. So I've created a sample bank statement. Now this is all imaginary data, all the numbers here are fictional. So the intention is to mimic a bank statement, but you will see that in some cases maybe the numbers don't match. You can see that she's got fairly high incoming amounts to her bank, and there is some fluctuation, but it's not by much. You can see towards the end she's losing money over here, right? And we've created different scenarios, location specific information such as where the amount was spent, whether it was an online purchase or if it was an ATM withdrawal, things like that. Now I've tried to keep it generic in terms of what I think most bank statements look like. I could be wrong, so don't hold me against the values that you see here. The whole intention is just to show you what you could do if you had a bank statement, not to actually show the details of, okay, fine, if you have this much you can do this and whatnot. We'll probably try and clean up this data at some point later, but for now we're just going to go ahead and use it as it is. So this looks like a fairly simple bank statement that you'd find with any other bank that you work with. I'm not really sure if there are many different formats, but I've been having about 3 different bank accounts, and all of them give me roughly the same information that we have here, right? Which is, we've got the date, a description of the transaction, the withdrawal amount, the deposit amount, and a running total or balance of what the amount is on the account. So let's go ahead and just clean up this Excel sheet, right? Just give it some realistic name over here, such as, uh, account statement for 2014. Yeah, great. So I've got this account statement. Now the next thing that probably Mary will do is she'll download SQL Server. Now for those of you who are watching this video for the first time, I've already created a couple of videos on how to download and install SQL Server. They're available on my blog. So if you just go to google.com and type in enabled business solutions, very first link, under connect you have the blog, and you can just search for install, and you can see I've got a video on installing SQL 2014. Then I've got a couple of other videos as well that's on YouTube. You can check them out. Yeah, so you can install SQL 2014. It's available. You can check out the link here. At this moment, really there's no difference between installing SQL 2014 and SQL 2012. I'm going to use SQL 2012. And this is a developer edition. It's again, you can download the trial version of the internet. So let's assume Mary is using developer edition trial version of the internet to see if SQL Server is what she needs to get her finances in order. So I've got SQL Server listed here. You can see I've got a couple of databases here, which probably is empty as far as Mary is concerned. So let's go ahead and do this. So the first thing Mary's going to do is she's going to open up SQL Server and connect to it, and she's going to say create a database. My finance, and she's going to execute it. Once that's done, if you refresh the database folder, you'll obviously have the database listed here. So you can see I've got my finance listed here. The next thing that she needs to do is go ahead and select my finance, just so that we know in which database we want to be saving our data. And at this point, you right click, go to tasks, and say import data. When you select import data, you're going to get a screen like this, which is the wizard. You press next, and under next we have the Excel statement or the Excel sheet that's got our transactions. Yeah, so we're going to go ahead, scroll up, and choose a Microsoft Excel data source. Click browse, and you can see there's an Excel sheet called Mary's Finance. I'm going to select that. The first row obviously have column names, so I'm going to leave that checked and press next. Then it's asking me where exactly to save the data. Since I've already selected the database and then clicked import, all this information is already available. You can see that it's got the native client for 2012. It's got the instance name of my SQL Server. For those of you who are installing it the first time, you'll probably have something like this or localhost. If you're not sure of either of these, you can simply type in the name of your computer. Yeah. Right, so yeah, I've got Windows authentication going on. It's all explained in the video that I've created previously on installing SQL Server, so I'm not getting into the details of this. You press next, and you're going to copy the data from the Excel sheet. So select copy data from one or more tables, press next, and you got the sheet that we just renamed account statement for 2014. You can see I've got a typo there. Let me just go ahead and change that. In fact, Mary probably wants to rename this to just account. Alright. If you click edit mappings, it'll actually show you the data types that will be used for this particular exercise. You can see we've got date time for the date, we've got varchar, which is actually textual data for the description, and then you got a float, which is basically just a number with a decimal place for the deposit, withdrawals, and balance. So go ahead, select, press next. You can see that you got a checkbox for run immediately, and you got one for save the SSIS package. I'm going to run this immediately because I've just downloaded the entire annual statement. Yeah. Press next, press finish, and you can see that it's transferred 936 rows. So with 936 rows transferred, we are looking at my entire finances for the last year, or Mary's entire finances for the last year, listed here inside the table. So you can see we've got a table with the date, description, deposit, and balance. So let's see what data we have. Select star from is basically select all the data from dbr.account, and you'll see that, you know, wherever there is a withdrawal, you'll see the amount there, and wherever there's a deposit, you'll see the amount there, and naturally the balance. Alright, great. So at this point we've got our data, it's there in the table. We got our Excel sheet loaded inside of this particular table inside the database, right? And that's the best starting place that we can expect at the moment. So we've taken an Excel sheet and loaded it into the database. The next thing that probably we need to do is categorize or group the data into something that makes more sense. So in this particular scenario, you see that I've got a date here, but the date in itself doesn't really make much difference to me because it's just a complete date. I'd probably like to split it into years, months, days format, just so that it's easier for me to categorize and group the data. And that's what we're going to do in the next video. So stick around.